This is a 4000-8000 combination Norton Waterstone. This side's the 4000, got the 8000 on the bottom. And it's been pre-soaked, so it's good and wet, but for that I'm just going to work up a bit of a slurry on it. This isn't entirely necessary. I'm not going to work up a really thick one either, and to do that I don't actually have a Negura, I think it's called, or rotten stone. To do that I'm just going to use a simple 6000 grit pocket waterstone I got from Lee Valley. It's mixing grit, so it's probably not great to do, but I've had no adverse effects from it, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Just put it on and rub it around a little. I'm not going to work up a really thick slurry, just enough to get some color in there and something to work the edge of the blade so I'm not just bare on the 4000. Just a little bit. I'm getting little pieces falling off here. That's weird. And continue that. Almost there. That's good. And these stones are good and flat together. Should be able to lift up the whole home with this little one. Probably slide off. Yep. There it goes. Some of that off. Throw that back in the water. Wipe my hands off a bit. And give it a bit more moisture to help out. Spread that around too. And that's good right there. And I still have the tape spine, I haven't removed that yet. I usually remove it at 4000 after a few strokes. Some people like to go with it all the way up to 8000 or not even. I'm not too overly concerned with hone wear. It happens. I don't hone all that much, so it's not that bad. So yeah, first thing I'm going to do is just one or two flat, straight strokes on the 4000, just like that. And just a little bit of water on there. And the reason I do that is because when you move from 1000 to 4000, the 4000 grit is obviously going to look different on the bevel than the 1000. And those two light strokes will indicate to me how much coverage I'm getting from a light stroke. And because the 4000 grit looks different than the 1000. And what I'm looking for on the very edge, or the bevel, is a completely uniform coverage by the 4000. It should, in a perfect world, the bevel would be the exact same distance all across the blade and it would look identical all across the blade. The same color, the same amount of light reflecting and everything, and I'm trying to get as close to that as I can. I don't want to see any big spots that are missing that still have grit from the 1000. And this is where a microscope or a jeweler's loupe would come in handy, but I managed to do without. And it looks good and even all along there. A tiny bit at the toe, had that problem at the 1000, but I can correct that by just changing the pressure ever so slightly. No wire edge either. Check it, and do the same for the other side. Some simple strokes. The excess drip off, wipe it, inspect the bevel. And same result as the other side. One other thing, since I'm using a different colored kind of slurry here, when you push the razor across it has kind of a squeegeeing effect, and if there's like a little tiny chip in the blade or some bare spot, it won't squeegee the water all the way across. You'll get like a little streak or something like that, and that's a good indicator. For a tiny chip or a very, very small bare spot, you probably won't get anything but a little fluff there. You probably won't get anything, but it does help sometimes. And there we go. I'm just going to give it a few strokes here before I remove the tape. There's a little fluff on there. and drip off. Wipe off the blade. And then remove that tape carefully. Don't want to cut myself or anything. Pull that off. Ah, throw it in the trash. And I'm going to start with my normal routine on the 4000, pretty much same stuff as I use for the 1000. It's a wide enough stone that it will accompany me just straight push stroke and straight pull stroke, but I kind of switch it up between the X pattern and push and pull, straight push and pull stroke, so we'll see. And again, I'm going to give it some of that rocking kind of tension. It's not going to actually rock the blade. Just going to shift the pressure from a little bit more under my right thumb when I start to a little bit more under my left thumb when it ends. To get good coverage all along the blade. The excess get off of there. Wipe it off again. And I'm going to inspect the blade. Oh yeah, good solid color all across. One way to check if the very edge of the blade isn't getting covered and it's just kind of the back portion towards here that's just getting honed away is in a bright light. When you move the blade around, you should see a bright line at some point along the very edge of the blade, and that might indicate either improper coverage of the bevel or you have a wire edge. I rarely get wire edges, so I don't see it all that often, but sometimes there's a improper coverage. I need to work it on the hone a bit more to get it all the way down to the very edge. Another way to check, and especially for blunting, like if something kind of hits the edge of the blade and causes it to flatten out, take the light so that the light comes down straight at the blade, and then if anything's there would reflect back right into your eye. If there's any blunting along the blade or any little flat spot, it should indicate, or the light should indicate that, and I'm getting no reflection whatsoever by that, so that is good. And continue on. Get a few strokes. Just a tad more water. And I'm gonna do that weird thing where I move my finger across it, like the moving paper fold, to give it good coverage all along the blade. Again, right hand is just guiding the blade, no pressure from it. There's all the pressure, which is barely any, comes from my finger moving across the blade. Just take your time. Wipe it off. Get rid of that tissue, it's getting filthy. And check it with my finger. And ooh, much smoother. 4000 grit right up there. Another way to check for a wire edge is if you move your finger off the blade, the wire edge might grip it when it gets right to the edge. And I'm getting none of that. So I'm going to give it a few more strokes here. Good solid firm strokes for this. And then again, going to end with some very light strokes. There we go. Wipe it off. Check progress. And wet my finger a little there. Drying out. Smooth. Still needs work, but I think it's getting there. Yeah. And that should do it for the 4K. If you find by this point it's not all the way there, I don't know, you can try some pyramids. I never use those. Or you can just go back with some firm pressure strokes, like from the beginning, and then end up with some light pressure strokes again. That's usually what I do. It works.